And my first foray into that was probably about a $5 million piece of business. A year later, I'd done really well. I should say this, I probably built my reputation as a business person, taking over broken businesses, doing turnarounds. And it's a lot of work, but apparently I do it pretty good, right? So a year after I arrived to take over this school, I was living in Southern California and I was asked to go to Houston and fix this location in the Houston market. And I did that, I did it pretty well, knock on wood. And then about a year later, I was asked, well, if you think you can do that, or you did do that, and you think you could apply those skill sets back in your home market in Southern California, we'd be really interested. We have 7 facilities, and collectively, they're all broken. Right? They were all broken at the time, 7 facilities making something on the order of, $2 million. It wasn't sustainable. And I said, sure, I got to go home back into the LA market, Orange County, which is where I'm originally from. And I got going with that. Probably 3 years later, the 2 million was 45 or $50 million in business across the 7 facilities. And then one day, about 3 years into that, I got a call from the COO to come into his office, and there was sitting my boss at the time. This was a really awkward situation. My boss is sitting there, and the COO is sitting there, and the COO goes, hey, I just want you to know that today's your boss's last day, and I'll be announcing in about 10 minutes that you've been promoted to the division president. I was just stunned because of that experience, right, of being present in front of your boss and simultaneously getting a promotion. Just the mixture of feelings. You're not quite sure how to process it all. But ultimately, I had scaled in that moment in time, in that instant. I had gone from 7 facilities and $50 million to 28 facilities and $350 million in business. And it was daunting. I was scared. I had a little bit of imposter syndrome that I was trying to deal with and come to terms with it all. And I had a lot of learnings, a lot of lessons that I learned in those moments over the next year or 2, 3, something along those lines. And then, ultimately the same thing kind of happened, that the COO moved on and I was identified internally to move into that role. And that's what I did. And that was about 1.5 billion. And there was over 100 facilities, had about 15,000 employees. And it was a complex, organization, highly regulated. And so I've had good experiences. I've won a lot of battles. I've won a lot of wars, if you will, if you think about it in that context.